Hi guys, it's Renelle. I will be reviewing the 50-piece Miya Jelly Gouache set in this video. I've been painting with this set for a few days and I feel like I can now give some meaningful insights in this medium. Because we do not have Miya Jelly Gouache available in our country, I had to order it from Amazon. The postage is quite expensive, so I really went crazy and I bought the big set of colors just in case. So unboxing this set, well, let's just say I needed to make some extra time for it. It takes a while longer to remove the labels of 50 colors. When opening the lid for the first time, I was greeted with a color chart and a thank you card, which is quite nice. There was a kind of a sponge stuck to the lid, which I do not know what it is for. It also does not come with a mixing palette like the small pink and mint green sets that you also get to order on Amazon. I do not know if it happened during postage or at the factory, but my black jelly gouache cup were cracked on the bottom, but I think it should be okay when placed in the little space provided, I hope. The set comes with 50 colors, but what makes this one different is that some of the most popular colors according to the manufacturer comes in bigger containers than the rest. The bigger ones is 60 ml, which also included 2 whites and mostly primary colors, and the rest is the regular 30 milliliter cups. This also means that the white will last a lot longer than when it used to be in the 50 milliliter cups. This is quite a lot of paint when you compare it to the usual 12 milliliter tubes you get with other gouache paints. I think I will eventually need a new set of jelly gouache when I'm like 90 years old. I must say that for me it was quite a struggle to get the top plastic wrapping off these cups. It took a pretty while for me to pull them off. I don't know if there's a specific way you have to pull them, or maybe I just lost the memo, I don't know, but I'm gonna speed this process up a bit, otherwise we'll be here for a very long time. I also didn't want to waste any paint, so I used my palette knife just to scrape off the lids for that extra paint, and this also made the process a little bit longer than it probably should have been. Okay, so that took a while, but eventually it got done. Because I did not really know what to do with the sponge lid, I ended up covering the lid with a plastic sticky wrap. We call it Adhesifix in our country, basically a sticky plastic film you cover your school books with. The idea is that I think this plastic will clean much easier than when leaving the sponge bare, and because this paints dry out quite quick, this is like a good sealant for keeping the paints wet. This is just experimenting from my side, so I'll let you know in a later video if it actually worked. Okay, so now I'll be painting with the Miya gouache to show you an example of the paints and how the paints perform. So the Jelly Gouache is supposed to be a very opaque watercolor but can be watered down to perform similar to watercolor. So I want to test out both methods in this painting just to see how it performs. I found that when painting with these, you really cannot keep the containers open for too long as the paint dries really fast. I found myself needing to spray the paints with water on a regular basis. Now when I paint, I scoop out only as I need to and basically cover the paints with the lid or some cling wrap. I will keep it open with very small art pieces. Luckily, when these paints are dried out, they react really well with water and you do not need to wait that long. This also means that there's not a lot of wastage of paint. I just think that it defeats the purpose of the Jelly Gouache paint as it meant to be ready to use when needed. An idea that I want to try out is to get a little small container where you store screws and maybe little buttons and stuff with a lid, and try scooping some of the paint in there and just keep the lid closed so that the paint doesn't dry out as easily. And it's still ready to use when you want to use it. But yes, I didn't get to that yet, so I'll let you know how that goes. The big set has a really huge range of colors to choose from, which makes it a really convenient set of paints, and it keeps the color mixing to a minimum. But if you are someone like me who does not mind mixing paint and usually only use a few colors, buying this set is, I think, a little overkill. I would also not recommend traveling with this set of Miya paints as it is pretty heavy and you will take up a lot of space. So when traveling, I would recommend just using a few primary colors of tube paints or scoop out some of the gouache colors into a watercolor mixing palette and be ready to reactivate it if you want to paint with them. Or just don't do what I did and buy the biggest set of Miya gouache there is on the market. Stick to maybe the 12 or 24 colors. So now onto the painting process. I started off with a more watery consistency for the initial layer of the painting, and this is done on 100% cotton hot press paper from Arches. Because this is regular gouache and not acrylic gouache, I had to be careful when I start adding the second layer to my painting as it could reactivate the bottom layers. This can sometimes be a good thing as it makes blending easier, especially on faces. But when not careful, the bottom layer can mix with the top layers and it can create muddy colors. I found that I had a little bit less control over the Jelly Gouache than when using gouache out of the tube, as you cannot really stir and mix the colors in the containers as you would on a mixing palette. I found that the scooping out method of the Jelly Gouache works better when you tend to mix your colors more and when you want to add more water to get a smoother consistency with the paints. What I found when I painted with these paints a few times is that they are honestly one of the most consistent and dependable student paints I have used so far. I found them painting a lot easier than my Reeves gouache, and they make less of a stroke line that I mentioned happening in my previous videos. While I paint, I want just to remind you to check out my new SKILLSHARE class that is up now, the one which I mentioned in my previous video. I don't know about you, but my biggest struggle as an artist is coming up with new ideas of what to paint. This technique that will be available on SKILLSHARE will cover that struggle, as well as artist block and how to overcome it. I also think that this process will help you find your art style, as it gives you a little insight to what you like to create as an artist. If you are interested in a class like this, you can click on my SKILLSHARE link in the description. So overall, I had a really fun time painting with this jelly gouache. They really feel like butter when you apply it to the paper, almost the same feel you get with oil paints. I do think that these paints is really fun to use, and being at the price point they are, you can enjoy them without feeling guilty or pressure to use them in a responsible way. You can test them out and enjoy them, and I find that the paint was really easy to use without being gunky or sticky. The colors is also bright and nicely saturated, and yeah, overall I think this is a great paint to start with if you want to use or learn how to use gouache. And also the other thing I found while painting is that when I needed a certain color quickly, I just dab my brush into the little container, and contamination between colors is almost inevitable with this jelly gouache set if you are not careful. This is all from me for today, and if you are trying out the Miya Jelly Gouache, I hope you have lots and lots of fun and you enjoy your painting process, and I'll see you in my next video. So bye guys.